Welcome or welcome back. I'm Matt, and today we're going to be talking about all of my fall book recommendations because it's that time. Everybody celebrate, everybody clap. I love fall. Fall is my favorite season. I think I have more fall books that I want to read than fall books that I've read, but I think I still have some pretty good recommendations. The first one for ultimate witchy vibes is Slewfoot by Brom. This is so fall. This is about a woman in the Puritan times. She marries someone not super for love, but they're friendly at the very least, and then he dies and she has to figure it out. Everyone thinks that she's a witch, and she's like, you know what, you already all think I'm a witch, let's do something about it. I don't want to spoil too much about it. I am reading this or rereading it for book club, so I'm just really stoked on it. And the art that Brom has in that book is so beautiful. All of his books, I'm sure, are beautiful, but that's the only one that I've read, so it's my only reference. It's so good, and it is just so fall. It is the perfect fall read. If I haven't sold you on it, just please read it. Just please give it a shot. The audiobook is also really good, but again, there's so much pictures and imagery in the book. I would recommend at least looking at that if you're going to do the audiobook. And then a lot of these books are going to be horror, but there's a few dark academia and fantasy books that I think also really scream fall. A couple of the dark academia books are Babel by R.F. Kuang. This is a little bit historical, set at Oxford, I believe, and we are following Remy, who is an Asian boy that has this ability, this affinity that is in a program that Oxford teaches, and you write on silver, I believe, and you write 2 words in 2 different languages, and something about the language makes that silver magic now, and it has to do with the linguistics of the words that you're writing. It is such an interesting logic-based magic system, which is my favorite kind of magic system, and this is so devastating in a different way, I think, than the Poppy War is, but I still can't recommend it enough. I think that I like this more than the Poppy War. I like Rin more than Remy, but I like this story in this setting more, I think. And then the other one is the Alex Stern series by Leigh Bardugo. I understand why this series is taking so long to write. The amount of research that Leigh Bardugo has to do into Yale and just everything is insane. I just want more from this so bad. We're following Alex, whose full name is Galaxy, and she gets an opportunity to go to Yale because she has an ability to talk to ghosts. And she is Yale's ghost speaker, and there's all of these secret societies, and there's murders that take place, and obviously there's ghosts because she can talk to them. I just really liked this series a lot. I thought it was so good, and it is just so fall to me. I don't know that I'll do a reread this year, but when they announce the 3rd book, I will be doing a reread because I love these books so much. And then I think this is going to be the last fantasy forward book, and most of the rest of it is going to be horror. But this is just such a vibe, and usually I struggle with fantasy books that are, vibey more so than plot focused, but I think this book does a really good job of balancing it, and I was just so into the story. This is For the Wolf by Hannah Witten, and I haven't read the 2nd book yet, For the Throne, but I really liked this. I also think it was Raylo fanfiction, or Raylo coded, but I'm not sure. It definitely was a take on Little Red Riding Hood and the Big Bad Wolf, though, and the forest is just so dark. The magic is pretty dark, and we're following 2 sisters. This is the first sister. She has to be a sacrifice so the kingdom stays okay, I think, is the general gist of it. And then we follow the 2nd sister in the 2nd book, but I haven't gotten there yet. But I would really recommend this one. We also get, not that the physical book actually matters for your reading experience, but it does have deckled edges and French flaps, which is the elite combo. So yeah, I can't really recommend this book enough, actually. And then I want to recommend an author in general that I think does a really good job of blending horror and romance, and that's Isabel Cañas. And she makes me historical horror, and I usually am not a historical horror person, but Isabel Cañas is so good at doing that to me. I loved Vampires of El Norte. The Hacienda was fine to me. It wasn't my favorite, but the new one, The Possession of Alba Diaz, is also so good. So good. And I think that Isabel Cañas does a really good job. I feel like sometimes horror romance is more focused on the romance and it's not actually scary. A lot of her books, like, there's tension, there is fear in them, but the romance is also so good. And now I'm gonna move on to 2 horror authors that I think do slashers really, really well. And I think slashers in books, it's a little bit more difficult than like a slasher in a movie, but they do just like an excellent job. And the first author is Stephen Graham Jones. The My Heart is a Chainsaw, The Angel of Indian Lake trilogy is so good. If you thought Jade was too annoying in the first book, I promise it gets better. I think we go 4-year time jumps each time, so her voice gets older and more mature. She's really annoying in this one though. Like, I get it. I struggled a little bit with her in this one, but I still had a good enough time that I continued, and I'm very glad that I did. And then the other one that I would recommend by Stephen Graham Jones, if you're looking for a slasher, is I Was a Teenage Slasher. It's just such an interesting take on it, and I think it's so good. I think it's still my favorite Stephen Graham Jones. It's not necessarily a super fall book, but again, if you're looking for a slasher, it's one of my favorites. And then in general, I'm recommending Nat Cassidy, but 2 slasher books that I think feel pretty fall by him. The first one, this one's more goofy, or like has less to say politically than most of his books do, but it was so fun. And one of my true fears is a rest stop bathroom, so it felt incredibly effective for me. This is Rest Stop by Nat Cassidy, and it is about a man who gets stuck in a rest stop bathroom on the way to, I think, a funeral. I don't think that part really matters, but it's horrifying. It's so scary. A lot of fears are packed into this little book, and it was just such a lovely time. And then his most recent book is When the Wolf Comes Home, and I believe this is set around October. It's set around Halloween for a very, like, convenient good reason. And again, it's a lot of fun. It's pretty heartbreaking. I think that the horror elements are scary in this, but it is also kind of like a family story and just like dealing with the worst day of your life pretty much. So I really would like to recommend it to you, but not tell you more than that. I think telling you more than that would not make the story as effective or as good. I'm not a super big cozy person. That's not really like where my genre interest exists, but there's a couple books that I really enjoyed that are horror, they're cozy, and they just scream fall to me. The first one is T. Kingfisher. I feel like a lot of her horror feels cozy to me because there's usually a lot of humor in it. She writes very funny characters and very funny books. I do think What Moves the Dead is genuinely terrifying though. I don't think that's cozy at all, even if there is some humor in it. But House with Good Bones does feel cozy to me. I thought this was really fun. This is about someone who goes back to her grandma's house, and her grandma has recently died, and that house is haunted, and the house is just like really pissed off, and they have to figure that out. And I also think that it's kind of about like breaking cycles, but mostly funny. And then we have one of the books that I have been screaming from the rooftops about since it came out. I really liked this one, and that's Someone You Can Build a Nest In by John Wiswell. We're following Shasheshan, who is just like this eldritch creature slash goop, and she's pretty disgusting and has to eat people in order to kind of like retain her shape. And to her utter devastation, she accidentally falls in love with a human woman after getting injured and needing to be taken care of by her. But the journey is so great, and it's just like that question of what does it really mean to be human, and am I feeling that way? And I guess I have to think about my feelings now. Ew. It's just such a good time. Thinking about how goopy Shasheshan is too reminded me of another book that I want to talk about, and that's The Library at Hellebore by Cassandra Khaw. Like the darkest of academia, a very goopy, squishy, squelchy kind of book. This, we're following someone who is at this university against her will, and all of the people there could be like the apocalypse basically, and she's just kind of, I don't know, going through it mostly. Okay, and now we have 2 books that I think if you want to be genuinely afraid, I think that they probably were the most effective for me for like that tension and fear. The first one is Hex by Thomas Oldhuvelt, and this is technically about a witch, but it's also about a town that you can't leave, and if you do, you want to yourself, and it's pretty much guaranteed that you will. I thought that this was so good, definitely built the tension for me, and I was very invested. And then we have Intercepts by TJ Payne, which may be my favorite horror of the year. Definitely the one that made me the most afraid. We're following a man and his daughter, and this the dad works at this governmental facility that uses humans as these like satellites to do something. I don't know if I want to actually say too much more than that or if it'll spoil it, but they're in these like extreme sensory deprivation situations in order to be satellites for the government. It is so off-putting, like the imagery. I'm usually not like a visual, like able to visualize kind of person, but this one absolutely freaked me out. I have a few possession stories that I'm excited about. I'm a Paul Tremblay girl. This is by far not my favorite Paul Tremblay, but I think it's the only one about possession. And that's A Head Full of Ghosts, from the perspective of a younger sister, and the older sister is the one that is possessed. And they get this TV crew in there. It is so scary. I could not imagine being this little girl. And it's just so good. Like, I love Paul Tremblay though. I'm super biased. And then we have Come Closer by Sarah Gran. I think this is such an effective short book. You basically get to follow her descent into insanity, and it is just so good. I loved this book. It was just the perfect possession story. It started from the exact right place and ended in the exact right place, and was incredibly devastating the way that I think a possession story should be. Old Soul by Susan Barker is about this entity that possesses people over time, and they're finally like connecting all of these pieces together, and we're from the perspective in the beginning about two people who miss their flight and connect over this entity and realize they have more in common than they thought they did. I just don't think that enough people are talking about it. I didn't get enough hype, enough marketing, I don't know what, but I thought that it was really good, really effective, and like, you know, genuinely scary. If you want to feel nostalgic, I have a couple recommendations for you. The first one is like a Scooby-Doo AU, so the nostalgic part is like a familiar story, and it is when they're all adults and coming back together after they have separated. And I think that some people have some problems with this book, but I enjoyed it. It is very like Lovecraftian in nature, and the dog is fine. The dog remains okay. And then we have 13 Months Haunted by Jimmy Giuliano, which is a newer release. It released on the 12th of August. And this is a tech horror set in the 90s. It's a very fun, very nostalgic feeling. The horror starts immediately, and I think that is just such a great time. I haven't read anything else from Jimmy Giuliano, but I definitely want to. I've heard mixed things about Dead 11, but I think I'm still going to give it a shot anyway. But as far as this one goes, such a great time. I had really no problems with this book, and I just need more people to read it, I guess. Now let's get into some Gothic vibes. These all also happen to be sapphic, and I think that just kind of explains who I am as a reader. One book that I didn't love, but I think is the perfect fall vibes, and I liked well enough to recommend it, is Hungerstone by Kat Dunn. This felt a little bit too much about the vibes and a little too slow for me, and not enough like, I wanted more on-page sapphicness, I guess, but I think that this could be for you. And I believe that it's also a Carmilla retelling, if that kind of gives you like the vibes of this book. And we have the only classic that I've liked recently. I definitely need to read more horror classics, but The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson is so good. It's so good, and it doesn't feel like it was written in 1950. It feels like it was written today, and just like the way that I felt while I was reading it, it is absolutely timeless. And then we have Plain Bad Heroines by Emily M. Danforth. This is about 3 young women who are on this movie set that are at this school where all of this tragedy happened a couple hundred years ago, and that tragedy still wants to make itself known. You absolutely won't look at bees the same, and it gets really like fever dreamy, not only in the way that the story is told, but also for the characters in the story, which I think is really fun. Okay, this is my final set of recommendations, and it's what I would say is folklore horror, but also like romantic folklore horror. 2 of these are also sapphic. The one that's not sapphic is The Horror by David Sodergran. This may be my favorite though. This is about an older woman, Muriel, who is losing her friends to this development, her home to this development, and has already lost her husband. She's a widow, but she finds this monster, the Horror, one day and like takes care of it. And they start this relationship, and it's really beautiful, and it's about grief. And I cried so hard while reading this book. It is one of my favorite books of all time. It is so good. And I haven't read anything else by David Sodergran. I think most of his other books are a little bit different from this one, but I love this one and I recommend it all the time. Knock Knock Open Wide by Neil Sharpson is a more recent favorite. This is about two girls in the 90s, and they are in this like theater program. They are in a very queer play while all this is happening, but it's also about a children's television program where the main character, the mascot, is in this box, but you don't want the main character to come out of the box or you'll be in trouble, which, like, why don't you want the kids to see the puppet? That's terrifying. And there's just so much more that goes into this, and I think it's like the Scottish countryside. It's Celtic folklore. Irish. And it's so good. It's so unique. It's just so odd. And I need more people to pick this up. It also finally has an audiobook, and his new one is coming out this year, which I'm also very excited about. And finally, Feast While You Can by Michaela Clemens and Anjuli Datta. Another one that I don't think gets enough hype. I like this a lot. This is kind of just like, what if you were the monster? That's kind of the take that it gives. And I think this book just does so many unique things. I don't really want to tell you more about it though, because I think it would give away too much. And it's also written by two wives. It's about as sapphic as you can get. And again, can't recommend it enough. Okay, that is all the recommendations I have for you. I feel like that was kind of a lot. So hopefully you got a new recommendation from me, a new book to pick up. If you didn't, recommend me a book, please, so that I can get more into all of these fall books. And if you don't have a book recommendation for me, just leave me a fall emoji to let me know that you were here. Thank you so much for watching. I am having a great time on YouTube, and I hope you have just the most immaculate fall and all of your fall bucket list items get checked off. And I will see you in the next one. Bye!